Bourne's also more, I think, willing to execute a threat quicker than Ethan Hunt would.
The next category, I would put Ethan Hunt at the top.
Bond is definitely getting thrown around, and Ethan Hunt gets absolutely smacked in the fight scene in the bathroom.
Welcome to Backseat Directing,
where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron.
We post new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on today's episode, we're talking about Action Hero Battle Royale.
A 3, a 2, a 1, action.
Why do you keep changing your voice for the 3, 2, 1?
Just give people a little variety.
Yeah, but it's been consistent. So that's not variety.
Yeah, but the last episode I said it normal. The last one we just filmed.
The last one we filmed. Okay, I see. So you're like...
Alex literally just opened the door.
That's because you didn't shut it enough.
No, he's got opposable thumbs, man.
You didn't shut it.
So this episode, we are going to be talking about 4 main huge modern action heroes. So I think like these are some of the biggest ones of the 21st century, especially, after, Bruce Willis is John McClane, and then John Rambo from Sylvester Stallone, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, like to kind of pass the torch on. This new 21st century heroes we're talking about, we're going to just kind of debate who's the strongest in different areas overall. Aaron will go over the categories. I'll go over the people that we are going to be debating. It's going to be James Bond, John Wick, Ethan Hunt, and our last contender is Jason Bourne. Almost forgot him.
Almost forgot him. He's like your favorite one out of all of them.
I was going to get to that too later, but this is my personal favorite probably.
Jason Bourne.
Yeah, no, he's definitely my personal favorite.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah. I like all of them. I think Jason Bourne for me is the most like nostalgic, the one that I grew up with watching the most out of all of them.
I think he's the coolest concept.
Yeah, he has a really good story.
Yeah,
he does.
Especially Identity, I think.
Yeah, I just rewatched the Bourne trilogy and was like refreshed on the story, and I was like, man, this story is like top tier.
I didn't tell you, but I watched Supremacy in preparation for this.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Why that one specifically?
Because I had just watched Identity not too long ago when they put them on Netflix, so it was the next logical choice.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, 1 and then 2. That's soon, maybe 3.
Soon Ultimatum coming up.
All right, the categories that we're going to be breaking down and trying to determine which one falls on top. We have most deadly, hand-to-hand combat, weapons handling, espionage, style, motor vehicle operations, and then at the end, this is probably my favorite category that we're going to be talking about. Is which actor do we think would win in a real life fight?
If they're so lucky Tom Hardy's not in there. Dude, have you seen him at these jiu-jitsu tournaments?
Yeah, he would wreck them for sure. I feel like he's he's kind of short, right?
He's a shorter guy, but he's been doing jiu-jitsu since Warrior came out. So he's been doing jiu-jitsu for years.
Yeah.
So he doesn't just have stunt training. Like he has like practical tournament training. And jiu-jitsu, like the grappling really, I feel like correlates, even if you're in a street fight. I mean, if you get in close, then jiu-jitsu works just like a fight. You know, it's not like some of these other fighting styles where it's very like tournament based and like a strike and you stop.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Most deadly. Andrew, who do you think out of these is the least deadly?
The least deadly, I'm going to go with Ethan Hunt overall.
Really?
Yeah.
Least deadly. So this is when we say least deadly, we mean like the least likely to what?
The least threatening to, if you have like an army of people, the least threatening to go up against them.
Gotcha.
That's how I see it.
Any opponent, this person would be the most deadly to fight.
Yeah, like if you got Dave Bautista's character in the James Bond franchise, Inspector, and it's like, oh, this is a huge hulking figure. A deadly person from these 4, regardless of like their size, is going to be the person you think is going to take him out, like with the most relative ease.
Yeah.
I think Ethan Hunt would struggle the most out of these people.
Yeah, look, he's definitely the smallest. I think he's top tier in some of these other
categories for sure.
That we got. But I think I could agree with you. And I feel like by putting them in last is like,
It's still
not
like a
that
crown.
bad. Yeah,
It's like your top 4.
yeah. I would agree. All right, so then third place, who would you put? I think I would put maybe either. Oh man,
I think I would have to go with Jason Bourne, unfortunately.
yeah, that's kind of where I was leading. I was thinking either James Bond or Jason Bourne.
I think James Bond is so deadly. Like, I was doing research, what as
you should.
as we call it,
Exactly.
as we call it research. But I was watching
We're
clips,
professionals here.
and the opening to Casino Royale with that chase sequence, he's just able to engage so many enemies at once, and and his decision making is so quick. Not only quick, but razor sharp. Like the way he sees like a crowd of enemies approaching as he's like pulling his target, and he just immediately he like fires at this pipe, steam bursts out, he kicks another guy down a pile of stairs into like 3 other guys. He's managing the person, his target, and engaging so many people at once. That's like that John Wick factor, I think, of just like the quick decision making plus like the pinpoint accuracy I think that's what like makes them really deadly. And I just think that also, the other thing I looked at was like the forces people are going up against making this decision. Like a really good scene for Ethan Hunt is like his prison escape, but he's fighting a bunch of like common criminals, whereas like Bond's going up against like Bond's like saving the world and going up against really high caliber threats. Wick is going up against trained assassins constantly. And then you've got Bourne fighting like Treadstone agents, which Treadstone agents I think are like some of the peak, villains any of these 4 guys go up against. They're like trained in this special experimental program in the CIA or whatever, the US government like secret hidden program that's like so advanced it turns people into Jason Bournes.
Yeah.
Like, so I think him going up against those people while he's taking them one-on-one is like the most threatening potential person next to some of the people John Wick's faces like zero.
Yeah, so you have John Wick.
No, I have. So we're going from the bottom. So I have Ethan Hunt and then Jason Bourne on top. I think Jason Bourne a lot of times he's taking people down so quick, and a lot of times they're like maybe like common security people or people who, although in law enforcement with training, don't fist fight that much.
He's definitely not in the same situations where he's fighting multiple people back to back to back. Like
Bond's probably fighting people who are like killing people regularly.
Right.
People who have high body counts.
Yeah, I think the Jason Bourne story is out of all of these the most grounded.
Yeah, definitely.
So
the main thing I put him above Hunt for is taking on the Treadstone agents, which are people who have high body counts, intensely high training.
I mean, Ethan Hunt's gone against some good foes too, but I think Jason Bourne kind of comes on top, just a little bit above him. But then, do we agree on the next 2?
Bourne's also more, I think, willing to execute a threat quicker than Ethan Hunt would. I think Ethan Hunt's maybe a little bit more of like the goody two shoes hero, is like the way he's written out.
Yeah, I can see that.
Not that he doesn't have to kill people. I mean, one thing I looked at was all their body counts. I actually have them here for this discussion. So we agreed on Ethan Hunt at the bottom. Mm-hmm. He's the only one whose kill count I really couldn't find. I think that he kills in one of the movies he kills 6 people, and it gets bigger each movie. But he's obviously got nothing on John Wick.
No one does in any genre. I don't even know if Thanos can compete with John Wick's kill count.
So who did you end up putting in third?
I'm in the same boat as you. I got Jason Bourne.
Okay.
There. Do we agree on the next 2 though? I have James Bond in second, and then John Wick in first.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't not put John Wick in fourth. In first. John Wick
is just relentless.
He's that guy. Like he is him when it comes to just murdering scores of people. And you can't not put him in first place in this debate, because those like 80s and 90s action heroes that I talked about that were just known for killing scores of people, like Arnie and Commando, like just killing endless people, like John Wick is that reincarnated. John Wick is like Terminator. He's an unstoppable force. He's an unrealistic 80s, 90s action hero. And the other guys are more grounded. Like the 21st century took that turn, and we have more grounded heroes. I mean, Ethan Hunt, James Bond, unrealistic, but more so grounded than John Wick, who can just tank bullets and giant falls from roofs. He's indestructible. And his kill count is, it's in It's what, 470?
How much do you think his
439.
how much do you think his suit cost?
I mean, that's gotta be like $1 million
Millions?
suit. His suit just absorbs bullets.
Crazy.
So he has 439 kills. Bourne doesn't have a lot. Bourne has 21, and then Bond, best I can tell, has around 50.
Yeah, I think let's talk about James Bond just a little bit.
Daniel Craig's Bond, by the way, if we haven't said that, specifically the one Bond.
Yes. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, so James Bond, I think, is above Ethan Hunt and Jason Bourne because he has a little bit more in terms of, I would say, like fitness and mobility and maybe the tools that he has access to as well. Like Jason Bourne, I mean, he's kind of just working by himself with an earpiece and tapped into someone's phone and a gun. Like that's kind of all he has and all he uses, you know?
That's part of my debate for, I think, what makes Jason Bourne so deadly. And maybe it'll come up in some of the other categories, but like doing more with less, I think, is part of the argument for Jason Bourne. But yes, Bond is his like litany of gadgets and like his car and all these other things that he has that enhance him. Definitely, like,
yeah, that makes him more deadly than Jason Bourne.
We have to give them what they normally have on them, even if we're not giving him the car. Like we have to give him like some of the gadgets he normally has on him.
Right.
Most of the, like his P Walther, I think it is the Walther is the handgun he uses. So we'll give them like each of their signature handgun and then what they normally wear, which is like mainly only a benefit to John Wick.
Yeah. I would say Ethan Hunt, I think, has a bunch of gadgets and stuff as well that he has access to. But I think it just in terms of like
face changing technology.
Yeah. But in terms of like just grit and, you know, like you said, willingness to kill and stuff, like Jason Bourne edges him out. And then James Bond edges him out. And then John Wick, I think, in this category is like on an island on his own.
Yeah. He's a little bit above. He's a little bit separated.
Okay, so what about hand-to-hand combat? So now you don't have a weapon. Now it's just your body. You know, who's at the bottom here? I feel like this is a little bit tougher, but I would probably put Ethan Hunt at the bottom.
For me, it'd be between Ethan Hunt and James Bond.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think that Bourne just takes people down so quick and uses their own like momentum and body weight against them. If you watch any of his fight scenes, he puts people to the ground in like a fraction of a second, which I don't think is the case of what. And then his fight scene in the first movie with the first Treadstone agent with the blonde hair who comes through the window, he is just moving with a quickness. He like does like a back handspring onto his feet, and he's vicious in that fight scene.
I can do that, by the way. Can you?
I cannot.
I'm sure you can figure it out.
I have to be taught.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say Ethan Hunt at the bottom, and then I would put probably James Bond next. And it's funny too, because like those are the two that have access to the most gadgets. You know, so like it kind of makes sense that they would be at the bottom of the list when they don't have any of their tools.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Dave Bautista again fighting Bond, Bond gets like rattled around in that fight, in the hand-to-hand fight scene. I mean, he's fighting a giant monster of a man, but Bond is definitely getting thrown around. And Ethan Hunt gets absolutely smacked in the fight scene in the bathroom, the iconic fight scene in Fallout. It's literally him with help from Henry Cavill, and they're both getting their asses whooped, and they have to be saved.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, Henry Cavill was getting beat up quite a bit in that scene, too. Which I think that's like a realistic representation of how a fight goes. I think in Jason Bourne and definitely John Wick, it's very like one-sided.
Well, Bourne takes a lot of damage when he fights the Treadstone agents. Anybody else he, like I said, puts to the floor in a second. Yeah. But when you see him fight the Treadstone agents, like the fight in the apartment in Supremacy, like he's almost gets choked out in that scene, and and that guy started in handcuffs too. So it just goes to show, I think, in zip ties, I think it just goes to show the threat that the Treadstone agents are too, for him to turn that situation around from being held at gunpoint.
So who do you put at the top here? Because I think I'm a little undecided. I mean, you have John Wick and Jason Bourne. Like you said, Jason Bourne has that quickness. He is very smart when he's fighting, I would say, you know, to where, like you said, he takes down his opponent's so fast. John Wick, I can't think of too much like situations where he's fighting when he doesn't have a gun.
His grappling is really good. I mean, the question is like, when does he not have a gun or a knife or nunchucks? You know,
Yeah.
he's just very like known for having a weapon in his hand.
Yeah, he's always able to keep some sort of distance and then is able to wrap him up if he needs to. But
He's also always fighting like 40 people at a time.
yeah, so
There's a good example of the fight at the end of, it's got to be Parabellum at 3 when he's fighting those two guys that are absolutely handing his ass to him.
Mm-hmm.
He has no weapons, I believe, at that point, but they also just flat out beat him and then just let him get back up for plot armor. So
that is true. But it is 2 against 1. I mean, that's unfair pretty much anyone who you're going against, you know.
and he takes a lot of beating before any of these fights too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of beating. I mean,
I think I would have to put John Wick at the top. I mean, just because of sheer volume and endurance of his fighting capability. You know, like I think even if James or Jason Bourne like hits harder or is quicker or whatever, like John Wick's just gonna last longer. You know, like he's just not gonna stop. And it's not like he doesn't deliver a hard hit without a weapon, you know? So I think just the longevity of the fight, I think John Wick would edge out Jason Bourne. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we definitely don't see Jason Bourne go the distance in a lot of fights. A lot of them end very quickly. So I'm going to put Wick on top also.
So that's the same list as we had for most deadly, right?
Well, we flipped Bourne and Bond. I did.
Okay, yeah. So we had Bond above Bourne for most deadly.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Now, weapons handling. So this counts guns, swords, knives, like whatever that they're going to be using to fight. I mean, let's just get the obvious one out of the way. John Wick's on top.
Coming out
right?
on top
Like,
again.
like, there's, again, I feel like not even a competition.
This is
here
the easiest
with the
decision
weapon.
of the entire
debate.
debate.
For sure. I would say Jason Bourne is at the bottom of this one.
I would agree. We see Jason Bourne probably miss more shots than anybody else in this debate, I think.
And not only is he missing shots, but he also just doesn't use as many weapons as everyone else does.
Although he does hit that 6 shot in Identity flying down the staircase.
Yeah, that was
he just headshots
And
that
he's
guy.
shooting with his pinky.
Yeah, that was sick
That
when
was-
he's got
that was
that
dope,
overhead
yeah.
held upside down. He's the man.
Yeah.
He's the absolute man. But
Okay, so we have him at the bottom for weapons handling, John Wick at the top, and I feel like this is the meat and potatoes here. This is the hard part. We have Ethan Hunt and James Bond in the middle. Who tops who in weapons handling?
Well, something we may also not have clarified is we're talking about them in their prime, because prime Bond is very different than like, you know, Skyfall Bond when he's like missing those shots at the target in the beginning of that movie after he's been severely wounded and like in hiding. So I think prime Bond, I'm going to put in second and Ethan Hunt in third, just because he's got like a deadly accuracy. You know, there's like a staircase scene. It might be in No Time to Die, the newest movie, where it's very John Wick-esque. He's just going up the staircase, headshots, taking people down, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that puts him up for me.
I can't think of too many weapons that Ethan Hunt is really wielding. But in these next few categories,
Ethan Hunt's going to come in.
He's going to come in strong, I think, you know. And the next category, I would put Ethan Hunt at the top, and that's espionage. What do you think?
Espionage. I see that comes down to me wanting to put Jason Bourne at the top because of what I said about doing more with less. Like with a simple like Nokia phone that he buys at the store and then altering it and then taking a sniper rifle from a rooftop across the street. Jason Bourne is just playing with the US government. Like all the resources at their disposal. They cannot find this man. He's controlling them. He knows more than them at every turn. He anticipates what they're going to do. So like in terms of like a tactical viewpoint. I just feel like Jason Bourne is so insane. Like he's operating with like a simple handgun, a phone, an earpiece, like you said, and the most basic cars. Like we'll get to cars. He's just operating with like a sedan that he picked up somebody else was driving with probably 150,000 miles on it. And that's what he says to Marie in the first movie. He's like, how does this car handle? I noticed that it veers a little bit to the left or whatever. He's like, he's doing so much with so little. So I put in Jason Bourne on top for Espionage just because of the way that he gets out of so many scenarios. And I think Espionage, like the ability to get and control information and like manipulate and deceive and like be in the shadows. I think that Jason Bourne is like peak.
Yeah, I agree with all your points, but I don't know if just because he's doing so much with so little that puts him above someone else doing so much with so much.
Ethan Hunt also has a team behind him, a team of very skilled people. Like Benji, Benji does so much for him. You know?
But do you think he would not be able to operate without Benji?
I think he'd be significantly less effective. Benji breaks him out of prison in Rogue Nation, and then facilitates so much of the things that they have to do. Like
literally transform his face into whatever face you want. Like, what's more covert than that?
Yeah, but at that same time they still require Benji to like. Not even just Benji, but these other tech and plans and other people.
That's what he has access to. Maybe Jason Bourne should have more friends if he wants to be better at this category. You know what I'm saying?
Bourne is getting out of a situation like where the government is just rushing in with assault rifles and identity. He's getting out of that. Like he grabs a fire escape plan off the wall and he like takes a walkie-talkie off some guy he takes down and he just like escapes that scenario like calm, cool-headed with ease. I'm putting him on top.
Yeah, I feel like I have to have Ethan Hunt just barely edging out Jason Bourne because
he has so much planning at his aid and so many other people helping him.
Yeah, but I think that's what goes into Espionage, is all that planning, all the strategy that goes into it, and then I think all the gadgets and stuff.
But aid
in all of that.
In A-Team, Liam Neeson as Hannibal, he's like, give me a minute, I'm good. Give me an hour, I'm great. Give me a year, I'm unbeatable. Like imagine what Jason Bourne could do if you gave him the amount of time that Ethan Hunt has to plan. I just feel like it'd be so much more.
I don't know. I feel like, I see what you're saying, but I feel like he's kind of, all right, well then give the guy who's already has all of this stuff the same amount of time. Like he's going to do it more effective because that's the way he's been doing it. Like
in the beginning, in Identity, the like mystery that unfolds, Bourne would have been on and off that boat, assassinated his target, done deal. No one would have ever known he was there if it hadn't been for the surprise of the kids and him making that like moral decision to not kill their father in front of them. He had that like just by himself, in, out, gone. Yeah,
but I feel like Ethan Hunt's ability to get into any situation and get out is just a little bit higher than Jason Bourne.
Infiltration and extraction, he's the man for that, scaling the side of the Taj Mahal, doing all these crazy stunts, but yeah. I put him in second.
I feel like that goes into the espionage like category,
Yeah, no, for sure.
Jumping out of a plane to get on top of a building, like Jason Bourne could not do that. Doesn't mean he couldn't like get into that building in a different way. But like, I think Ethan Hunt's ability is just higher than Jason Bourne.
You're talking about the Halo jump. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's something that's like exclusive to Ethan Hunt, that skill. Yeah. But still, I think that he's got too many tools at his disposal to compare. It makes it a tough comparison.
Okay. So
what's the next category?
We didn't even talk about the rest of the candidates for this spot. Where I have Wick at the bottom. And then
you got to put Bond above Wick.
Yeah, and then I have Bond, Jason Bourne, and then at the top for me is
because Bond is espionage.
Right.
It's a big part of who he is.
Yeah. So. Okay, next one, style. How do they dress? How do they look?
We can get another easy one out of the way for first place. It's obviously James Bond.
Yeah, I can see the argument for John Wick though.
I think John Wick's an easy.
He's always wearing a suit, and his suit is bulletproof.
I think that he's an easy second rounder.
Come on,
I think style's more than just the clothes too. It's about the attitude, and when you incorporate the attitude into it, dude, Bond is just so suave. He's so cool. He's who everyone wants to be.
He's definitely more iconic in the style.
Yeah. He can
category
wear,
than John Wick.
He can wear the hell out of a suit and put some utility on it too. He can wear a nice watch that also like pops a guy's eye out of his head or something.
I can agree with you for Bond at the top, John Wick at the second.
Bourne at the absolute bottom.
Yeah.
For just wearing
Bourne's just wearing like
cargo pants that go past his knees.
Yeah.
In the beginning of Supremacy, those cargos are so long. And then Ethan Hunt is in third. I mean, he's styling sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I would have him at third too. Okay, motor vehicles. It's got to be Ethan Hunt. Like, you can't argue that. Like, he can fly planes, helicopters, tanks, whatever, cars. Like, I think he's just motorcycles. Like, I think he's the most versatile when it comes to moving a machine.
Yes. Okay, I can side with that definitely. And I mean, then there's that 6th scene in Rogue Nation. I'm going back to that movie again, where he's driving after like just being resuscitated. I think it is. You know, he's just like died, and she's like, "You were just dead," and then he's like, "No, I'm good." And after that, he's like driving, doing a crazy chase scene, and he at one point like drifts the car sideways, takes out 2 motorcycles, like spins it around and keeps driving. That's absolutely sick. But I want to give my props again to my guy Jason Bourne, because like I said, he's driving like a BMW beat up over 100k miles on it that he just found on the side of the road, and then he's like driving into oncoming traffic, bobbing and weaving. The streets are pretty empty in that chase scene I was just talking about with Hunt, so there's a lot more dynamic and dealing with like a shitbox car in the Bourne case. So I
feel like you value more with less very high.
Yes,
for all of these categories, which is fair.
Because I mean, James Bond is driving an Aston Martin tricked out by Q with crazy gadgets all over it.
Yeah, but me getting into that tricked out Aston Martin like doesn't mean I'm gonna be a good driver. Also, you know, like he's got to be good to be able to use these good gadgets.
I also think the streets are relatively empty, and namely the Spectre scene that I'm imagining. All he does is drive away from Dave Bautista, and then he like ends up rocketing out of his car, like taking the jetpack escape option. Like, yeah, it's smooth as hell when he comes walking down the street, pops it right off, and walks off in a suit. He looks awesome, but the evasive driving is not that impressive.
He's also riding a motorcycle through. I think it's the second one.
Solace.
Yeah, he's riding the motorcycle through like the village and the streets. You know, like he's able to maneuver that thing really well too. But then you have Jason Bourne, who's also riding a like dirt bike motorcycle thing, and he grinded down a stairwell with it.
Like this ultimatum, right?
That's insane.
Yeah, he's crazy with it, dude. He does this move in Supremacy where he like spins the car backwards, driving it pinned against the Treadstone agent played by Carl Urban, shoots him through the side of the car. The cars like flip over. It's crazy.
Yeah, so would we put him in second or third? And then what about John Wick? I mean, John Wick is
an incredible driver. John Wick is, I don't know if he's like the best driver, but he might be the one that is most likely to kill somebody with a car. The most.
Well, they deserve to die or not.
I think I got to go with Ethan Hunt in first, Bourne in second, then Wick, then Bond. I just want to put Bond at the bottom for this one. That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
I think the only like disagreement would be the bottom two for me, but I would be fine with leaving them how they are too. You know, so I think that one can kind of go either way for me, but I think the top two are fair.
Also, props to Marie's driving in Supremacy. She has to take over and she has to take the wheel at the beginning. I mean, she does get shot in the back of the head, but she gets away from him almost there. Almost.
Jason Bourne would have gone swerve.
Bullet dodge. He would have swerved and had the bullet hit Marie. No.
Oh man.
Oh, dude. A point for Bourne, and I don't know what this goes into, no categories, but just unlimited ability to hold his breath. Like in that scene in Supremacy, they go off the bridge. Yeah, sure, he gets the little breath pocket of air out the back of the car, but then he goes on to like attempt mouth to mouth underwater. Like he's giving his oxygen to her.
Multiple breaths.
And then
it was like 4 breaths.
It was a lot. And then he just watches her float away. He's doing this little floaty thing here. It's like, dude, you're gonna die. He'll swim in whatever direction you're gonna swim.
He also like, when he's floating, he had his mouth open in that spot too. So it's like not like he's trying. He was still like breathing bubbles up.
Dude, I don't know.
Yeah,
This guy,
wild scene.
his lungs must just be bigger than his body. Like, I don't know where he's.
I think he's adapted to learn how to breathe underwater.
Synthesizing the air.
So maybe he can be higher in the espionage
Jason Bourne has
category because he can breathe
he's got
underwater.
damn gills.
Okay. Now the category that I think is my favorite. Who's going to win in a fight in real life? And I think there's two scenarios that we can consider. We can consider right now who would win, but then we can also consider at peak shape in their life for the actor who would win in real life.
So I think that I'll let you go first. Who do you think is coming out on top? I'm gonna try and find their ages.
On top, I don't know, but I know the bottom.
Who's on bottom?
And I would put Tom Cruise at the bottom, mainly because of his size. I know you have the stats over there for how much everyone weighs and how tall they are and stuff.
They're all older.
Yeah, I think they're all above 50, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, right now I feel like they're all like around the same age. So
just to give an idea, Daniel Craig is 55. Matt Damon is the youngest at 52. Keanu is 58, and Tom Cruise is the oldest at 60. So they're all within an 8-year age gap of one another. It's not too big of a factor, but Tom Cruise is the oldest.
yeah, so I put him at the bottom. It blows my mind that he's 60, by the way. Like, I just kind of relate it to like my dad. No offense, Dad, but like I can't see him doing anything that Tom Cruise does. You know, my dad's younger. Like,
Yeah.
It's insane. He's obviously in peak physical condition for someone his age, but in a fight, I don't think he would win overall. Maybe he could win in like a specific, like if we were doing motor vehicle operations, like he wins hands down. And then I would probably put Keanu in second for that category, you know? I think Keanu has had a lot of training in real life. So I think that does help a lot. I'm not sure how much like hand-to-hand combat or jiu-jitsu he's had, but it seems like he displays a lot of that tumbling ability in the John Wick movies. So
You assume it's a fair amount because of
Yeah.
the amount that he's learned. Well, you've seen footage of him off screen just working with guns. You assume he's also learned a fair amount of the grappling as well.
Yeah,
the
for sure.
wrestling. I have their height and weight pulled up. Do you want to hear that?
Yeah,
too?
let's hear it.
Just to make the audience and yourself can make informed decisions. So Keanu's Wick is 6'1" and 185 pounds. Matt Damon's Bourne is 5'10" and around 170 pounds, somewhere in the 170s. And then Daniel Craig's James Bond is 5'10" and 180. And Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise, is 5'7". And this is the weight that I trust the least. You got to take these with a grain of salt. It says 150 is what the internet says. Seems low.
That's wild because I'm 6 foot. We got to present our stats too. You know, I'm 6 foot, 195, 190, 195. I kind of fluctuate. So let's say 193.
And I'm 5'11", like 175.
Yeah. So I'm the second tallest, just behind Keanu.
Yeah.
And I'm the heaviest by 10 or 15 pounds. And I wouldn't say that I'm that big of a guy. Like, I'm relatively strong, but I'm not.
Could you
like,
take on legions of men? Could you could you fist fight 50 men?
No, I could not. So it's interesting to see like that in perspective. Like,
Definitely with these variations aren't that crazy for anyone except for Tom Cruise, I think. So I think
you just think he's looks heavier than what that.
No, well, what I
right?
mean is the variations, like the standard deviation of these heights and weights are pretty close between the other three actors.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the biggest factor is going to be like which one of them has the most training from like whatever their personal interests are, plus their whatever stunt work they get involved in the movie. And we definitely, I think we can make the fairly confident assumption that Cruise and Wick have the most involvement in actually learning the tactics that they're doing on screen.
But I just don't think Tom Cruise could win in the fight versus these guys. Do you? Like, even at his peak.
We're going with like, if we're talking about like peak Daniel Craig, like 5'10", 180, the scene he's walking out of the beach in Casino Royale where he's just like buff. I don't think there's a way that Tom Cruise is going to take him down.
Because I don't know if Tom Cruise doing that much like actual fighting stuff. I feel like he does more stunts that are like a little more out there, you know, like scaling the side of the building or sky jumping stuff
across,
like that.
jumping
Like,
across two buildings.
yeah, like
I
he's
think
definitely tough. He's athletic, but he's, to me, having 30 pounds on someone and being 5 to 10 years younger when you're in your 50s is a big difference.
I think the grit aspect is pretty valuable to consider too. I just don't want to go over this whole thing without discussing it, because I mean, I think Cruz has a high pain tolerance. His recovery from breaking his ankle. He's like one of those like force of will guys, like his mind never matter kind of stuff. I think that's a valuable aspect. I don't think it's enough to put him over Craig and Keanu Reeves.
So who do you put at the top? Do you have Keanu?
I think I'm gonna go with Keanu. If all things were the same, if all their skill level in fighting was the same, I'd probably go with Daniel Craig at the top.
Yeah, but it's not, right?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Keanu Reeves just because I think that he's picked up a lot from. He's personally even himself said he's like what is he? How does he phrase it? He says, "I don't do stunts. I don't do stunt work. I do
fighting."
He calls it something else. Yeah. Like he doesn't participate. The things that are too dangerous, the stuntmen do.
Like getting hit by a car 17 times in a row.
But I think then we still see him do like a lot of the real grappling and learning a lot of the techniques. They teach him the realistic way to like do these things so that it looks good on camera.
At least in the John Wick movies, I just don't see Keanu being very like explosive and like durable enough or like an actual like one-on-one fight. You know, like don't you see Daniel Craig as just move, or even Matt Damon is just like moving a little bit faster? Like I feel like when I'm watching Keanu move, I'm watching like an old man move.
But they're movies use camera tricks more to sell these things. Like Keanu's movies are using like long held shots. Like you actually see you have like better angles of the blow. So that makes them harder to sell, which means that they can't probably move quite as quick or be as close to the person or as explosive without risking hurting them. I think that's probably a big factor in that too.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, I don't know why, this is just kind of like an assumption that I'm having, and maybe I'm not giving him enough credit, but like, if it's not scripted, how well is Keanu at actually fighting?
He also is like too nice of a guy, like way too. So if you're taking that into effect,
no, we're not. We're Hunger Games. They're in an arena. We need a winner, kind of thing. Like they're in the octagon. Like who's coming out on top?
I could be persuaded to pick Craig, put Daniel Craig at the top.
It's tough because we're like kind of just basing things off of size and appearance, which I feel like doesn't have that much actual weight in a fight, especially when I feel like it doesn't have that much weight into a fight when it comes to people that all know how to fight. Now, if not everyone knows how to fight, then having 30 pounds on someone is a huge advantage, I would say. Or having 3 or 4 inches on your reach is also a huge advantage. So it's kind of hard just to dictate because we don't overly know their experience of fighting. Like you said, if Tom Hardy was in this match, like we know he fights, you know, like he's had some real life fighting experience. Like he's coming out on top. Dave Bautista, same thing. Like even if he was
as well,
even if he's smaller, like he knows how to actually fight. He was a wrestler, but then he also went into the UFC. I think he did like 1 match or something, but still like having that 1 match of a real life
1 match in the UFC, it puts you so many leagues ahead of like me, a random person.
Yeah. And like, I'm sure he sparred before then, you know, like
he had to have tons of times.
How many times has he been hit in the face compared to how many times have you been hit in the face?
Once,
you know, like it's not the same. So I feel like it's very hard to actually come out with a winner. Based on like appearance, I would go Daniel Craig, but based on like experience, I can see Keanu like having more experience and being able to like strategically work his way through the fight. But at the same time, I feel like he's a little bit slower.
I'm going to put...
Does this mean that we are automatically putting Matt Damon in third?
I think so. No. Yes. I'm going to go... Okay, here's my final order. I'm putting Keanu back on top. I'm going to go Keanu Reeves, Daniel Craig, Matt Damon, then Tom Cruise. That's what the order I'm going to go in. Tom Cruise is seething somewhere right now.
Yeah.
These nobodies.
Yeah, I'll agree with your list as well. I like that list.
Gentlemen,
That was, you grabbed my hand before I can even get there. We go. That's better.
It was an act of dominance. I squeezed the end of his fingers so that he couldn't like get as good of a grip.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just wanted you to know I would win in a fight.
That's hilarious. Comment down below, guys, who you think would win in a fight, me or Andrew. We should film it sometime.
Actually, comment down below as well who you think would win in a fight between these characters in different scenarios and between the actors who portray the characters. I'd love to see that debate or disagree with us or agree with us and let us know that we have super solid opinions. That'd be cool too.
Yeah, we post full episodes every Monday and Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. So you can head over to those platforms, subscribe, follow. That helps out the channel a lot. And then we're posting daily on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts, so you can interact with us there.
And
that's a wrap.